first of all, to ask whether you want the shorter talk finished by a guided meditation like yesterday, or you want just a talk. Which would you prefer? You want like the guided meditation? Okay. So what I'll do, as yesterday, about 40 minutes talk, and then a guided meditation afterwards. Okay, so yesterday we were just talking about the beginnings of the meditation, just where you can be kind and aware of your body, so you can relax it, and then from there you take that kindness and awareness to your peaceometer to learn how to relax, and then after that you go off quite naturally into a meditation object like the breathing. And that becomes a very natural process, and one of the reasons is because when everything else calms down, that's the last thing which is really moving. It's just a function of our brains, and our mind follows. It only notices things which change. So you can now hear the hum of the aircon, keeping you warm. But after a few seconds, that sound will disappear. It doesn't change, and the brain is very efficient. It only notices things which change, like my voice, which is one of the reasons, if ever you are giving a public talk, to keep people awake, don't just talk in a monotone, because it's just the nature of the brain to go to sleep after a certain amount of time. So when things change, we pay attention. So now we use that in meditation to try and be comfortable so we don't have to move, quiet, so we try not to make too many noises. If you do have to come in or go out during the meditation, try and get up and go out quietly, silently. And I often observe burglars can do that with no problem at all. And if they can do that, you are much more refined, I hope, than burglars. So you should be able to come and go quietly without anybody noticing, because you should be a little bit more mindful and focused. So it can be done. So you see if you can come and go, if it's during the meditation, not at the end, quietly. And number 2 is that when we just sit quietly, hardly any noise, closing our eyes. When your eyes are closed, you don't see anything anyway, so your sense of sight turns off, sound turns off, smell, taste turns off. And the hardest of the 5 senses to turn off is your physical body, because there's always something going on there. So you sit comfortably. It's the most important part of having a good posture, which I mean not one which impresses other people, but one which is like comfortable for you. So that when you are relaxed and there's nothing much going on in your body, most of it vanishes. You can't feel your legs, you can't feel your head, you can't feel anything, because nothing is moving, except for your breathing. So just by learning how to sit comfortably in a quiet place with your eyes closed, you do find the breath is the last thing which disappears, because it's always moving. And if you use willpower to stop yourself breathing so it can shut down, it's not just the breath which shuts down, you shut down as well. We have to take you to the morgue. So don't try and control the breath, it's too dangerous. All we need to do is just learn how to relax. Because when we relax, when we've got the car in the garage, it doesn't use any gas, any petrol. The engine is just idling, it gets very cool. Just the same way, if you sit still, you're not thinking or worrying about anything, You're just watching the breath go in, the breath go out, the breath go in. Relax without any force. It's just your default state. And that means that because you don't need much oxygen, you're not metabolizing that much, you don't need to breathe so much. Your intake of oxygen gets less and less and less. So you don't need much breathing. Not because you force it, naturally. And so as the breath needs less oxygen and you actually breathe less, naturally, comfortably, no force, then obviously the breath becomes very calm because you don't need much breath. So it gets very calm, and so it's not much of a disturbance anymore. Just the breath breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. So calm that soon the breath awareness turns off. You have calmed down your 5 senses just by relaxing, being peaceful, and then the 5 senses disappear to reveal the 6th sense, which is not a movie, it is your mind. And this is actually where we get face to face with this thing which is called our chitta, our mind, to see actually how we work. Who is behind all of this, or what is behind all of this? What is this mind? Which I was saying yesterday is impermanent, just a process. It may sound scary, it may sound unbelievable, or you believe in that, doesn't really matter. Direct experience is the only thing which can confirm these Dhamma, these truths. So in order to find out what this mind is, this is how we do it. We calm everything down, so everything vanishes except for this mind, the 6th sense. Now, it's not just for the sake of finding out the truth of things. It's also the path is very peaceful and very happy. It's full of joy. And the reason for that is the calmer you are, the more energy goes into your mindfulness. As I was mentioning this yesterday, that as you slow down, you're not wasting so much energy. And somebody told me, I think about 30-35% of your physical energy, all the food which you take, I think 35-40% of that is used in your brain. So that's why you eat so much and it all gets wasted, thinking, worrying, planning, taking notes. And it's one of the reasons, one of my other excuses, my brain is just running on idle most of the day. So I don't consume much brain energy. So all that energy which a normal person would metabolize in their brain, it gets stored in here instead. And this is the sign of a calm, peaceful person. Ajahn was like this. But it is true. People say I should worry some more. So you should teach me how to worry. And then I can lose some weight. I've got to worry about this, worry about that, worry about everything else. Because that's a fact, you do lose a lot of energy by thinking and worrying about useless stuff. So the sign that you're getting very peaceful is you put on weight. But anyway, it means you don't wasting energy. Because you're not wasting energy, you don't need much oxygen, the breathing gets very slow, so it can actually vanish. And you can get to understand this thing which we call the mind. But the thing was yesterday, that as your energy doesn't get wasted in thinking and worrying and controlling and getting frustrated, you can really relax and let things be. Then it goes into your mindfulness. You become more aware. And that's a wonderful part of this path. the more, or rather the less you do and worry, the more you see. And the more you see, the more happy and beautiful it is. You get more energy into your knowing, into your mindfulness. And the old simile, which I think some of you may be able to relate to, you've already gone for walks around this forest. The simile was, after living in this place, I've been here now about 33 years, for the first 7 years I was up and down Kingsbury Drive in a car. And you know, even when I go to Hong Kong or Indonesia, it's so hard to get any exercise. And the reason is, you say, no, Ajahn Brahm, we'll give you a lift in our car. You can bless our car when you're sitting in the front seat. And so it's so hard for me to get a walk anywhere. People say, no, I've got to pick you up. It's true, you know. So this one day, nice morning, plenty of time, and I asked my driver, please let me out at the bottom of Kingsbury Drive. I want to walk up the hill today. And of course they said, no, we can't let you do that. And I said, I'm going out. I said, no, but I just jumped out anyway. It's the only way to do it. So they went on ahead and I walked. It's only about 2.5 kilometers from the bottom of the hill up to the top. Amanda, you've been here almost as long as I have. How many times have you walked up Kingsbury Drive?
Once or twice.
You have? Excellent. Only once or twice in 33 years. So anyway, the first time I did it after 7 years, it was a strange experience, something I never expected, because I could not recognize that hillside. It looked totally different. And you can try this the next time that you get back home where you've lived for several years. Instead of going from your home always in a car, just walk to the end of the street. And you'll notice what I noticed. I saw things I never noticed through the window of a car. And after 7 years, I thought I was mindful, I was aware. But I saw stuff which I'd never noticed before on that hillside. And it was so strange, it was like you were walking up a different hillside. You could not recognize it. And it was so strange for me that I stopped and stared in disbelief. Am I on the right hillside? What's going on? And when I stopped and stared, not moving, that is when I saw even more detail in the hillside. And what I saw was more beautiful. And I thought, this is weird. What is happening? And soon it became quite clear. Once you have strange data, something interesting to contemplate, then that's where insight happens. On the strange stuff of life, not the ordinary stuff. So when I looked at that hillside and I started contemplating why it looked so beautiful when I was walking perfectly still, it became so obvious that any of you about my age who's ever developed their own photographs, in the days before digital cameras, you'd have this film in the back and you would take it out in a dark room and put it in this chemical solution, the developer, and the image, you'd see the image like appear as a chemical reaction brought out the colors and the images on the photographic paper. It took some time, a couple of minutes, to get the full image. And that is precisely what happens in the back of your eye. Light hits the retina, it's a chemical reaction. It takes some seconds to fully develop on the back of your eye, and then for your mind to investigate what's there. When I was looking through the window of a speeding car, when you look through that window, image hit the back of the eye. Before it fully developed, another image came, and then another image, which meant none of those chemical reactions had fully developed. They weren't finished yet. which meant that what I saw was only rough detail and the colours hadn't fully formed. They were washed out, they were pastel rather than the full colours. And when I walked rather than looked through the window of a car, the chemical reaction in the eye had more time. So more detail emerged and the colours were richer. But when I stood perfectly still, only then did the image have full time to develop. So you saw so many intricate details of what was out there, what was always out there, but I was going too fast to notice. And the extra bonus was the colours, which are so deep and rich and beautiful, like I'd never seen before. And that was a wonderful simile for me of what happens in meditation. Your mindfulness gets stronger and stronger because of stillness. If you're always moving from one thing to another really fast, you miss so much. Detail isn't fully formed and it's not rich. But when you start to meditate and you take your energy away from doing stuff, you're actually going slower, you actually see more and you feel more. And whatever it is you see, you feel, or you taste at breakfast or lunch is far more delicious than you ever expected. All of that was there, but you're going too fast to appreciate it. So this is one of the great benefits of meditation. When you slow down, things become more rich in color, in texture, in taste. You begin to feel more. Even your body becomes more alive. You can feel the wind, whereas before you were just going too fast to be able to feel it. So it's a wonderful thing when you come here. As you slow down, you become more alive. And what you see becomes more beautiful. You start to get happiness in simple things. The teddy bear is more cuddly than it was at the beginning. The food becomes more tasty. Even your bed becomes softer. And little things like the stories, I have many of these stories, but one of the first times was on a meditation retreat at university when I was still a student, and I was allowed to go for a walk 1 hour every morning, supposed to be for exercise. But I thought a nice place to go for a walk was in the local botanical gardens. I knew the area, that was Cambridge. And I thought that would be a wonderful place to exercise early in the morning. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which way you look at it, I could only get to the gate. And at the gate there was this incredibly beautiful clump of bamboo. And it just took my breath away. It was amazing. Never seen anything so beautiful. And for 8 of those 9 days, I just went to that most beautiful clump of bamboo I'd ever seen in my life, sat down on a bench, because if someone had seen this student, long hair and jeans, I wasn't always bald. It's actually one of the reasons why I became a monk. I had such long hair, and my mother said, "You should get your hair cut." And when I did, she said, "This is not what I meant." Find a middle way. So this is the nature of a young man and becoming a monk. Hair today, gone tomorrow. That's a joke. Okay, never mind. I'm going to give up telling jokes from now on. So if I'd have stood perfectly still for the 50 minutes staring at a clump of bamboo in the late 60s, early 70s, they'd have probably thought I was on some drug and taken me off to the hospital. So I at least had enough presence to sit down and stare at that clump of bamboo for 50 minutes, 8 days in a row. And I never finished with it. It was so gorgeous and beautiful. And that was quite stunning. Why did that happen? And about a week or 2 weeks later, back at studies, socializing, doing all this stuff, I had a free afternoon. So I thought, I'm going to get on my bicycle and go visit the most beautiful clump of bamboo I'd ever seen in my whole life. And I got to the entrance of the botanical gardens, and I was so disappointed. Where's the most beautiful clump of bamboo gone? Had this really dry, desiccated, dusty, hardly any leaves on piece of bamboo, because bamboo doesn't really grow well in the English climate. It shouldn't be there in the first place, and it looked terrible when I was busy, when my mind was tired for all of the busyness of being a student. And that's where you got the great insights, when your mind is peaceful and still and relaxed. Things which aren't supposed to be beautiful become delightful. And when you're busy, you look at it and it's gone, disappeared. So it will happen, I hope it happens, that during this meditation retreat, you relax, you stop going so fast, you slow down, and it becomes so still that you meditate and have a nice peaceful meditation. You open your eyes and you look at the bamboo floor. Wow. So many different colors of brown and gold, and the different shapes and colors just in the floor right in front of you, which you've been sitting on for so many hours, but now you can really see how gorgeous and how beautiful it is. This is a sign that your mindfulness is powerful enough, because you've been relaxing, becoming still. You start to see the beauty in things. Piti sukha, the joy and happiness which starts to arise in your meditation. You start to have a good time. Crazy, but so true. Everything of the piece of bamboo in front of you, the bamboo flooring looks gorgeous. You go outside and you see the sunset, and that is amazing. It's not just one little bit of gold, heaps and heaps of different colors of golds and reds stretching over the horizon. You go outside and have a walk in the forest, and there's just so much going on there. You feel the wind that goes across your face. It's like a caress. It's gorgeous. And even, I encourage people, even though it might be a bit cold for you, just don't use your shoes. This is not Jakarta. It's a very clean place here. So the kangaroos don't wear shoes, and they do okay. So feel the texture, of the wooden floor, the concrete, or the grass. Feel it. You become alive instead of insulating yourself from life. And if it does rain, which I hope it does, do you remember when you were a child, you go out in the rain and get soaking wet? How about doing that again if it rains? Stop protecting yourself. Afterwards, you go and take a nice warm shower so you don't get a cold. But it's nice to be alive again, to feel the world. It becomes delightful when you're going slow. So this is where we learn to encourage the delight, the happiness of meditation. You see the beauty where you never thought you'd see it before. And this is when, if you're starting watching the breathing, the breath becomes so gorgeous. You've never breathed such a delightful breath before. This is not something you do, it's something which happens, whether you plan it or not. It's just nature. And that is one of the great things about meditation, that it's a fun thing to do. So much that when you know how to meditate, you look forward to meditation. You can't get enough of it. You don't say, I better do some more meditation today, because Ajahn Brahm knows me. If I don't meditate, if I sleep all the time, I feel so guilty. We don't run on guilt and punishment in this place. We all run out of just a beautiful motivation. It's such a joyful, peaceful, wonderful, happy thing to do, to meditate. So you find people getting up really early in the morning. They're not smart asses trying to prove something. You don't need to sleep so much. So you get up and you just like meditating. You just like to do it. Natural, fun, and joyful. So when the joy comes up in the meditation, please don't chase it away and thinking, I'm being happy, there must be something wrong. It's weird why people in our modern world think that religion should be all about suffering. And that's what I remember religion when I was young, going into these churches which were so cold. And that was in England in the winter time, snow outside, and it wasn't much different inside. And the benches, we weren't allowed any cushions, they were hard oak benches. And that was before the sermon started, where he said, you're all going to go to hell, you're going to burn in hell. And actually that sounded quite attractive, considered how cold it was in those churches. At least you were warm. I was only a young kid. But it was as if like to have any happiness was wrong. And even in the time of the Buddha, before the Buddha became enlightened, they always thought the ascetic practices, sitting for long periods of time, going through pain, and enduring pain, you're going to learn something. The only thing you learn from going through pain is not to do it again, it's stupid. And I will never forget, because personal experience, one of my fellow monks in Thailand when I was a young monk, he decided to meditate all night without moving. Enlightenment or bust. Some people are like that, They sit there and they say, right, this is it. Tonight's the night. I don't care, because the Buddha even said, even though my blood dries up and my bones turn to dust, I am not going to move until I get fully enlightened. This is it. Enlightenment or bust. Every person I've known who's tried that always busts. Every one of them. And that's what this fellow did. Following morning, he'd stayed. He got great determination, a lot of willpower, but no wisdom at all. We had to take him to hospital the next day. A double knee reconstruction. Yeah, stupid. And that's what the Buddha said. I mentioned that yesterday in the sutta class. The middle way. Not things which fatigue you and tire you and send you to hospital. So imagine if any of you, I told you to do something like that, these days I'll get sued. Just like, I love telling that story. When I was in Hong Kong, you used to stay in that temple over in, you know the place anyway, Chiang Mai, yeah. And they used to have monks from many different places would come there and stay. It was like a great little place where you can get all the latest gossip, from different monasteries. So like a coffee house. So you'd have cups of tea and chat, after breakfast, what's going on in mainland China. That's when this monk, he told me this story. I forget what his name was. That he was on one of these retreats in mainland China. And on that retreat, it was one of the Zen retreats or Chan retreats. And the master was walking down with a big stick. You've seen that before. And there was this middle-aged lady, and she was falling asleep. So the master whacked her on the back. That's tradition. That's what they're supposed to do. You've seen that in the movies, in the documentaries. Only this is modern times. She reached into her pocket, took out her cell phone, and rang the police, who came in a few minutes and arrested that monk for assault and took him away. That was the end of the retreat. That's a true story. So that's why we can't do this in Australia. I get arrested and taken away for assault. But you don't need to do that. It's a crazy way of teaching people through fear and pain. Because I did go to one of those monasteries once when I was young, because didn't have any sort of choice, any monastery to do a retreat. And it was a Zen monastery. And they came behind in the early morning with a stick. I never got hit. You know why? Because the man sitting next to me, he was more sleepy than I was. He got hit. He was right next to me. As soon as I heard the sound of that, I was perfectly awake. I was so straight. I was terrified. I wasn't peaceful at all, just in perfect fear, so that didn't really seem to work. But anyway, so when it gets to real meditation, it becomes so natural and so peaceful, so kind, and so wonderful. You feel good. You feel happy. The piti sukha comes up, the joy and happiness. And that was a wonderful thing to read, that in this path of meditation, it's not supposed to be endurance. It's wisdom power, where you learn to love this meditation, become so peaceful, so happy, you can sit for hours, not because you are trying to go through pain, because there's no pain there at all. You're happy, you're at peace. Peace is happiness. So this comes up in meditation. Unfortunately, I have to keep telling people this because they think that somehow or other, if you're enjoying yourself, it can't be spiritual practice. They have even the saying over in the West, no pain, no gain. That might work in the world of sport, but in the world of meditation, that's totally the opposite. As you learn to be still, to slow down, what you experience becomes more complete, more full. You see more details. And what you tend to see is more beauty. And when you do that inside, when you're watching your breathing, your breath becomes so delightful. Just breathe in. Oh, this is great. Oh, this is wonderful. And you breathe out. Oh, it's so nice. So simple. Nothing to do in the whole world. Just to breathe in and breathe out. Really simple. When that happiness comes, I keep calling that the pivot point of meditation. Once you get to the joyful meditations, the happy meditations, it's like you get to the top of the hill, momentum just takes you down the rest of the way. You don't need much more guidance, it just happens from there on. So if you're enjoying the meditation, please don't ever think that something is wrong. It's right, you can see it in the books. And it gets, as you get more joy coming up with the meditation, I call it the delightful breath, the beautiful breath. As you start to notice and be mindful of the beautiful breath, you don't want to do anything. Now I used to wonder why it is when I was a young man, I could sit perfectly still as a young man watching a movie for a couple of hours. But when I was meditating, half an hour, that was enough. What was the difference? Because I was enjoying myself. It was the joy which is the glue which sticks your mind onto your meditation object, naturally. If you want to be still and you're not enjoying yourself, it's just too much force. You get very tense after a while. But when it's joy, it's a natural happiness, a natural stillness. You don't want to go anywhere. You're content and happy just being here, just watching the breath come in, watching the breath go out. Joyfully. That is a sign that your meditation is beginning to take off. And for anyone who gets these ideas that, but you'll be attached to that happiness in meditation. You are supposed to be attached to that happiness in meditation. As I say, that Buddhists are really weird sometimes. They say not supposed to be attached to anything. Of course there is times to be attached and there's times to let go. If you're on the back of a motorbike going through Jakarta traffic, please do not let go. Be attached. If you fall off, that's it, you're dead. There's a time to be attached and a time to let go. But this is a natural attachment simply because you're enjoying the meditation, and it leads to enlightenment. Something which is really interesting to see. The Buddha was talking to this monk, and this is in the Pasadika Sutta, where the monk was saying, oh, some people criticize us. They say that you Buddhist monks are just attached to happiness. And the Buddha said, if they say that, you should answer, what type of happiness are the monks attached to? And if they say attached to the happiness of the five senses, say, no, that's wrong. If you say it's attached to the happiness of meditation, yes, that is right. And then if they ask, well, what happens if you get attached to the happiness of meditation? You should answer, there's only 4 consequences. Only 4 things can happen to you if you get attached to the bliss of meditation. And those 4 consequences are stream winning, once returning, non-returning, or full enlightenment. You're out of here. That is the path. And I'll mention that during the sutta classes one of these afternoons. It's in that book, The Word of the Buddha. So when the happiness comes up, go for it, indulge in it, enjoy it. It's part of the path. You deserve it. Go for it. And I know people are having a good time because you see this beautiful smile on their face. They're meditating, beautiful smile on their face. And afterwards, they're having their lunch, beautiful smile on their face. And whatever happens to them, someone calls them a stupid fat pig, and they still got their beautiful smile on their face. Nothing, because they got this inner happiness inside. And that takes you much deeper and much further in this meditation. When I was mentioning those beginning stages of meditation, you just learn how to make your body very peaceful, just by learning how to relax. When your body is very relaxed, it feels so delightful. As I said, it's the reason why people do go to spas, or they go to these resorts and they lie on these recliners. They do that because the body feels just so nice afterwards. One interesting thing is when your body does feel pleasurable just through relaxing in your meditation posture, just focus on the delight of a relaxed body. And that delight takes you deeper into relaxation. When I focus, when my body really relaxes, just sitting here starting the meditation, it's so peaceful and so nice. I focus on the joy, the pleasure of a body which is so relaxed. And it goes into a deeper level of relaxation. The same thing happens with your mind. When you start to notice the joy in meditation, you go deeper into peacefulness, deeper into stillness. The joy becomes your vehicle, which is why you start off using the vehicle of the body, then the vehicle of the breath, then the vehicle of joy and happiness. That takes you to the next level, which is really blissful. So when the joy comes up, you don't need to discard it. Just get into it. Have some fun in meditation. You deserve it. And it's just a wonderful time. That was a great insight to know, you can be happy. The spiritual path is not just a path of pain and suffering and endurance. Because some people they've asked me before, Ajahn Brahm, you're a fit, healthy young man when I first ordained as a monk, had a good education, lots of really good prospects, had lots of girlfriends before I became a monk. Even, one of the scariest things which ever happened to me, this is, when I look back on all the traumas I had, this was probably the most traumatic. I was at a friend's wedding. This was at Cambridge. 2 friends, boy was in the college with me, and the girl, one of our group crowd, go to parties together. They got married. And at the end of the marriage, once it all finished, young men being young men, we started this stupid conversation, which went as, who's going to be next to get married? And someone pointed to one of my friends, oh, Jeff, he'll be the next to get married. And then boys being, no, I'd marry him. And then they pointed to me. And my name in those days was Peter. Peter will be the next one to get married. And then they said the same thing, Noah would marry me. And there was a little girl standing next to me. She whispered into my ear, I would. I'd never been so scared in my life. I was terrified. The next week I was never alone with that girl. Poor little girl. That was the most traumatic thing I can remember from my youth. Anyway, all this fun and games you have as a young guy. So anyway, you had lots of good times, but why did you become a monk and stay as a monk? You're so happy in the meditation, so much joy, so much peace, which is one of the reasons why I teach, to get you guys and girls into that same state, just that much. So you're so peaceful in meditation, so happy. Oh, this is nice. And that's only the start. It gets really deeper and deeper and deeper. But it only happens if you try and aspire for it. If you want it, it never happens. You're not still enough. If you run up that hill looking for happiness, you never find it. You've got to go slowly and then be still. And then it's all around you. You can't miss it. So stillness is the path. Go slow, be still. So you're just sitting here, not going anywhere, just being here. If you're trying to achieve something, that's too much wanting. If you let go of all wanting, just be here. Whatever's right in front of you right now, the most important object in the whole world. Just allow the meditation just to evolve naturally. It does. You just have to not get in the way. And just sitting here, just relaxing your body. Then we're looking at your peaceometer, get the mind really peaceful. And then you watch the breath. Just happens naturally, the only thing moving. Then it becomes so delightful because you're going slow. The energy goes into mindfulness rather than being wasted into thinking and planning and doing stuff. And then you just literally wake up. Your mind becomes so bright. And your food becomes really delicious. Your bed becomes so soft. The views, from this site becomes so incredibly delightful. You can watch the stars at night if the clouds clear, and they're incredibly beautiful. Everything, even the sound of the birds, becomes so sonorous. You can hear so much. Everything becomes delightful. And that's a sign your mindfulness has got strong. So when you sit down, you can feel your body and it feels so alive, so beautiful. You can just relax it and go into the mind. And the mind is so delightful, so peaceful. The breath just comes up, and that too becomes beautiful, delightful breath. And it's the delight, that happiness. You focus on that, and that takes you even deeper into peaceful states. Of course, those of you who have listened to me talk before, what happens next is these beautiful lights appear in the mind. That's how we see the jitta, the mind. It's just what happens. A lot of people get that. If you haven't got it yet, don't worry, you will, guarantee. Because if you don't get it now, when you die, you will. You all know what happens when people die. They go towards the light. And that's going to happen anyway. But it's nice to be able to do it before you die and check it out, what it's like to let go of the body and the five senses, to allow them to get so still and peaceful they disappear. And you experience your mind, your jitta. And then all the stuff I said yesterday about, is this mind permanent essence, or is it a process, is it a change? Of course you can't understand that. It's nice telling you what the Buddha said, but you have to have direct experience of your mind. Just the mind, nothing else. And then you can see for yourself what is true and what isn't. Da, da, da. So, I did promise that at the end of this little talk we'll do a 15-minute meditation. So here we go, a guided meditation. And if you're enjoying yourself during this meditation, when I ring the bell, just carry on. I'm going to turn the lights off. So if you're going to turn the lights off, you better turn the sun off as well. That's the switch round the back there somewhere. Very good. It's only a short guided meditation, but I go through it. The initial stage is a bit quicker than yesterday. So, closing your eyes. We close our eyes to shut down the sense of seeing, but at the same time to make us more aware, have more capacity in our brain for feeling and also listening to my sounds. And in order to calm your body down so it's not an ache or a pain or an itch or a cough or a sneeze, we do that straight away. We try and do our coughing, our sneezing at the beginning. And even though I've been meditating for so many years, I feel the legs first of all. I focus on them. In the same way that I'd say focus if I was driving a car and just making sure that there was enough petrol in the car for the journey. Make sure there's enough comfort in my legs for the next 15 minutes. Making sure there's nothing which is too squashed or tight, that all the legs are really comfortable. If you sit on a chair and the chair is too high, put a cushion underneath your feet. If you've got really long legs, you put a cushion underneath your buttocks. That's where you can adjust. Until you find the best position for your legs. Then you look at your buttocks, making sure they are comfortable. The reason I say that, because people would fidget, and most of the time they'd fidget because their bottom wasn't comfortable. So get that right, so you don't need to move. If you are careful at the beginning, you have no problems in the middle or the end. Sometimes I raise my bottom up with a cushion, sometimes I feel I don't need it. It just tells me that your posture is not the same every time. It does change, it does adapt. And then I like stretching my back, first of all, give it a good stretch. That releases all these pleasure chemicals. When you stretch, you see kangaroos doing this, dogs doing it, cats doing it, good stretch. And then I relax. Sometimes I keep my back straight, sometimes I let it slump, sometimes I lean it back. If you're on a chair, you find the best posture for yourself. Try out a couple of those postures and use your awareness, your mindfulness to find the best. And kindness keeps you in that best posture. If you look at your arms and hands, there is no one posture for your arms and hands which you always keep. It changes from day to day, time to time. Find what is most comfortable for you. And you loosen your shoulders. Make sure your head is comfortable on top of your neck. The awareness and mindfulness gives you the information. The kindness moves your body to the best posture. And once you've got the best posture by movement, then just notice the whole body, just like preparing a car before you start your journey. Making sure everything is in its right place. And then the next part of the relaxation of the body is to find one part of the body which is irritating or painful. The most irritating, the most painful, the most disturbed. And just focus on that. Zoom in on it. And you find once you have awareness of that part of the body, you have some sort of control over it. You can tense it up, you can loosen it up. Just the way that the mind interacts with that small part of the body. You can learn how to relax even a small part of the body. Trial and error, feedback is how we learn. So you can take that part of the body and really relax it very deeply. It's like you're giving your body a massage, but this time with your mind. Bringing inner parts of the body to a state of comfort. And once your body is relaxed, and delightfully so, then it's easy to let it go. And you go next to your peaceometer. How peaceful are you? Or how agitated? You find the hindrances like wanting something more, aspiring, that makes you more agitated. Ill will, restlessness, those things agitate you. But just being kind, opening the door of your heart to this moment with no conditions attached, letting this moment be, that relaxes. And you can feel your mind becoming peaceful. So this is by being aware of the peaceometer. Yeah, the mindfulness of that gives you feedback, and you learn how to relax emotionally. See if you can invite the breath in. Am I breathing in? Am I breathing out? Which one is it? And how do you know? How do you know what the breath is doing? Don't decide to watch it at the tip of the nose or in the belly or anywhere. You just let the breath tell you where to watch it. Wherever the breath happens to be, that's where you watch. And being a friend to your breathing, not a controller. And just go slow in this present moment. And soon, just like walking up the hillside, you start to notice more and more of the breath. Because you're not wasting energy planning or having a commentary or being afraid. Because you are just using your energy to know rather than to react. Your mindfulness gets stronger and stronger, more bright. And you can see more of the breath. And you can appreciate how joyful, how blissful it is to have nothing to do in the whole world except just watch this one little breath happening now. do you feel now? How peaceful are you? And can you start to notice the delight, the joy, the piti sukha when the mind becomes peaceful? Not wasting energy on reacting and doing. Have more energy for being here and appreciating this moment. So it's 9 o'clock now. So it's another 2 hours for your lunch to sit here and to bliss out. Or if you're, yeah?
I have a quick question.
Quick one, yeah.
Yeah. If I relax my body like this, is it possible for me to get it straight up during the course
Yeah,
of meditation?
sometimes it happens by itself.
Just you're not allowed to move like this.
Of course, yeah, you're allowed to move, but if I was you, I would not try and move.
Just relax like this.
Yeah, and afterwards what happens is the body straightens itself up. When it wants to do it, automatic, you don't do anything. It's nice when that happens. So I just remember when I started meditating years and years ago as a student, I was slumped down and then my body straightened out. That was weird, I never did that. I never told it to do it. It's totally automatic.
But sometimes you do the intention.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do it with intention. When the body's ready, it'll do it by itself. It's much better. It's more fun that way, because you realise you're not in control of your body. And if you try to control it, you usually make it worse. When the body wants to straighten up, it does it. I never tell my breath what to do. It's never let me down once. My heart has been beating all the time, just there's a right amount, just to get the right amount of oxygen going into my brain and other organs. So my body, I can trust it. It knows what to do. So it means I can let go and relax. Okay, so some interviews now for those who want interviews. And other than that, just